So without further ado, I introduce to you Mr. Tom Hammond.
Well, the format here is going to be that I'm going to introduce Coach Gene Victor, and Coach Gene Victor is going to come up and talk about his team, and many of which are in this room tonight. So I want to start, actually I have a Bob Settle story too. Can I tell it? I think Delgado and Arbuckle and Hammond, we probably spent more hours in our youth with Coach Victor and Bob Settle, 4 years of baseball, summer leagues, American Legion teams. I mean, we spent more time with them than our parents, I think. And I know more time with them than our girlfriends. But anyway, I have this quick story. We were playing Arcadia at home. And as you know, Bob Settle used to have a tendency to get after umpires. He was a needler all the time. So along about the fourth inning or fifth inning, this umpire had enough of Bob Settle. And he said, "You're out of here." And so Bob got kicked out of the game, and he walked behind the dugout, behind the chain link fence. And of course he kept coaching, behind the fence, which you're not supposed to do. So I remember it was along about the sixth or seventh inning, and this umpire was getting very, very irritated at Coach Settle. So finally he walked over and he said, "You've got to get out of the area. I don't want you back here." So Bob walked over to as you recall, out in left field, there was the gym and the shower rooms and what have you, and there was a little concrete porch out there. So Bob walked maybe 100 yards, walked over there and was standing on this porch. So I remember I got up, and this is the sixth or seventh inning, and I got a triple. I remember that. That was because I don't remember many of those, but I got it. So I'm standing on third base, and I'm looking over at the gym, and I'm seeing Bob Settle, who'd been kicked out of the game twice, standing out there giving signs. I don't know if Delgado remembers that, but that was a Bob Settle story. That was the way it was. I have a neighbor who's slightly socially impaired. He went to SC. And he was actually it was even worse than that. He was a linebacker on on the John McKay teams. But at any rate, I see Mike all the time because we run our dogs together at night. And so in one of our conversations, I said to him, it brought up the fact that I went to El Monte High School. And he looked at me and he said, 55 to 54. I remember that. Well, he went to Mount Carmel. And he happened to be at that game. And he said, "I remember that game. We should have won that game. What happened to you guys?" And then he said, "Who was that big guy?" Remember that? Of course, it was Bill Angus, our late great friend. But so he said, so then we carried on this thing. So then I looked at our annual and I said, "Well, where are the pictures for this game?" And our annual 57 annual wasn't very good. So I said to Mike, "Mike, let me see your 1957 Mount Carmel annual." Sure enough, many good pictures in there, and they're on the stand back there. So I said to Mike, "Let me borrow your annual," and I had those pictures blown up. And I thought they were great. So they go to whoever wants them, the coach or wherever else. So let's talk about Gene Victor. As was mentioned, I started at Mountain View School, not Mountain View High School, but Mountain View School, and Gene Victor was there. Gene Victor, in those days, we had a very, very good league. Baseball, football, track, basketball, and we played all the other junior high schools in the area. Gene Victor coached every one of those teams at Mountain View School. In addition to which, he taught 6 PE classes. In addition to which, he graded scraped the baseball field. He put the chalk on the football field. He did everything. And we spent more time with Gene. He also had this aggravating tendency in his PE classes that when kids were not so well behaved, he had this thing called the duck walk, and he would make us get down. I don't know if you know what a duck walk is, but you get down and you walk like a duck. And I remember that's probably the source of my orthopedic problems. Do a lap of the duck walk. I remember that. Interestingly, Coach Victor, on these teams that we had, I know Monte, I don't think that the concept of carpooling was ever invented in those days, but at any rate, El Monte was kind of spread out, and if you played on these teams after school, he had to get home. And every night, Gene Victor ran sort of an unlicensed taxi service, if you would. He would put 6 or 8 kids in his Plymouth in the trunk, honest to God, in the trunk. He'd take them home. He'd drive these kids home. And then I had a little break in my school career. I didn't go to school for a year, and I was, theoretically, I was supposed to be ill. But at any rate, Gene Victor, most weeks, maybe twice a week or 3 times a week sometimes, he would pull up in front of our house in El Monte about 5 o'clock, which was always dinner time, in our little 700 square foot house, to visit me, because I was supposed to be sick. And he would get out, and all these 6 or 7 kids would pile into our little living room. And I remember every night my mother would say, "Oh Christ, here they are again." But you know what? How many school teachers and coaches would do something like that? I mean, I've always had fun memories. I have one more little anecdote. I looked in our annual, and I looked at our baseball thing, and I noted it said that in the first 5 games of our baseball season in 1957, we were 2-3. It's probably Delgado's fault, but we were 2-3. And then it said, there was a line that says, the problem with this team is that many of the players were detained by the CIF playoffs. I love the word detained. And of course it was Delgado and Arbuckle and Calabrese and Howard Williams who were all in the basketball team. So we weren't so good for 5 seasons, or for 5 games. We recovered. We didn't do as well as Gene's basketball team, but we did very well. Let me give you the formal history of accomplishments of Gene Victor. First off, as you know, he was a CIF El Monte High School champion in 1957. That year, he was the Helms Athletic Foundation Coach of the Year. Remember the Helms trucks? Remember the bread trucks? Remember that? Remember the Helms Athletic Foundation? Gene Victor coached at Mt Sac for 28 years. He coached at Caltech for 15 years. Gene's Victor at Mt Sac was 503 wins, 228 losses. He was honored by being one of the first coaches in Southern California to ever have 700 lifetime wins. Now, I don't think the Caltech record helped that. Gene Victor was 6 times chosen as the Community College Coach of the Year. He had 14 conference championships at Mt Sac. He was in the state finals at the community colleges 5 times. When I called Gene and Jennifer, I said, we're coming to this event, and it's a Hall of Fame event, and Jennifer says, oh God, not another Hall of Fame. But let me give you a list of Hall of Fames for Gene Victor. Gene Victor is in the Citizen Savings Hall of Fame in 1979. He's in the California Community Coaches Association Hall of Fame. He's in the Mt Sac Hall of Fame. And he is the recipient of the National Association of Basketball Coaches Merit Award. I think that has been mentioned before, of all of our teachers and of all of the coaches that we grow up with, I have to personally thank Gene Victor, and I personally have to thank Bob Settle. I love them both. Coach?